Hello everyone, welcome to the Tim Booker channel. I wish you a pleasant listening experience. Today, I'm going to interpret a book for you called Starry Messenger. This book was published in May 2023. Upon hearing the title, you might think it's a science fiction novel, but the subtitle of the book better encapsulates its theme. The subtitle is Cosmic Perspectives on Civilization. Using a cosmic perspective, the book invites us to re-examine some important topics in human society. What is a cosmic perspective? Let's feel it through a true story from the book. When Clinton was the President of the United States, he had a rock on his desk, not an ordinary rock, but a sample of rock brought back by the Apollo astronauts from the moon. Whenever politicians argued with Clinton, he would point to this rock from the moon and remind them that if they were to look back from the moon, the issues they were arguing about wouldn't matter. Astronaut Edgar Mitchell, who spent 9 hours walking on the moon, also expressed a similar sentiment. He said, "From the moon, international politics look so insignificant. You want to grab a politician by the scruff of the neck and drag him 250,000 miles away and say, 'Look at this, you fool.'" His original words were more intense, with a profanity in the last sentence, which I won't repeat here. Why was the astronaut so passionate? 250,000 miles is 10 times the circumference of the Earth's equator. From this distance, you can't see the Great Wall or the pyramids. Not to mention distinguishing one country from another, even the boundaries of continents are blurry. It's only at this point that you truly see the Earth as a planet. The world looks different, and you undergo a transformation. Your brain will reorder the priorities of life and reassess the actions a person might take. Your views on culture, society, or civilization will be influenced. This is the cosmic perspective. The author of this book is Neil deGrasse Tyson. Tyson is not a boxer, he's an astronomer. However, his fame in the United States is no less than that of the boxer Tyson. Neil deGrasse Tyson actively engages in popular science, and Mr. Wan Weigang has interpreted his popular science work, Astrophysics for People in a Hurry, on the audiobook platform. He has also hosted several popular science programs on television, making him well known in the United States. He even made a guest appearance on the popular American sitcom, The Big Bang Theory, playing himself. In addition to all this, Neil deGrasse Tyson served as an advisor on space affairs during the tenure of former U.S. President George W. Bush. In recent years, Tyson has also been involved in various political debates. From this resume, you can tell that Neil deGrasse Tyson is not a scientist who stays secluded in a study conducting research. He is an actively involved scientist who participates in discussions on public affairs. His identity as an astronomer and his concern for public affairs prompted Neil deGrasse Tyson to write this book, leading us to reconsider Earth's issues from beyond Earth. By the way, the title of this book, Starry Messenger, is also a reference. Galileo published a book in 1610 with the same title, where he shared his thoughts on astronomy, allowing people to truly understand the world beyond Earth for the first time and bringing about a profound knowledge shock. You see, when we observe the universe outwardly, it, in turn, influences our perception of ourselves. In the next episode, let's follow Neil deGrasse Tyson, stand beyond Earth, and then look back at the Earth and humanity on it. Let's see what is worth reconsidering, reflecting on, and what brings us comfort and joy. What are some things we can reconsider? Neil deGrasse Tyson takes us on a thought experiment. Imagine you're an extraterrestrial being, arriving on Earth for the first time in a spaceship. When observing how humans think and act, what might seem strange to you? That's what we can reconsider. Neil deGrasse Tyson provides an example in the book. The northeastern part of the United States, relatively sparsely populated, has wild deer roaming around. Accidents happen, and vehicles inadvertently collide with these wandering deer, causing injuries and even deaths. How to address this issue? Some biologists, using computer simulations, found that introducing some cougars could alleviate the problem. They predicted that within 30 years, it could prevent 21,400 injuries, save 155 lives, and save $2.1 billion. You might ask, isn't it dangerous to have cougars roaming around freely? Biologists also considered this issue. They predicted that within 30 years, 30 people might be killed by cougars. Now, the dilemma arises. On one side, there are 155 deaths, and on the other side, 30 deaths. Which one would you choose? If you asked the opinion of extraterrestrial beings, they probably wouldn't hesitate much. Aren't you trying to reduce deaths? The numbers are there. The second option indeed reduces casualties, not to mention saving $2.1 billion that could be invested in public healthcare, saving even more lives. However, on Earth, releasing cougars to prey on humans is something no one can accept. This illustrates the clash between emotion and reason. Often, when making decisions, we don't strictly follow reason but let emotion decide. Neil deGrasse Tyson experienced the 9/11 events firsthand, living near the World Trade Center. He witnessed the buildings being hit. However, he also believes that the U.S. government's response after September 11th was not rational. In the book, he presents a set of numbers. 9/11 terrorist attacks killed nearly 3,000 Americans, leading the U.S. to spend $2 trillion on the war on terror. Meanwhile, on average, 100 people die in traffic accidents every day in the U.S., equivalent to the number of deaths from terrorist attacks in a month after September 11th. Moreover, this number continues to increase monthly, with 35,000 people dying in traffic accidents every year. Extraterrestrials might find it hard to understand this subtle psychology of humans, why we are more willing to accept deaths caused by traffic accidents. When emotion overshadows reason too much, not just extraterrestrials, even humans themselves can't understand some of their choices. Agricultural technology company Monsanto developed a genetically modified corn with complete resistance to glyphosate, an herbicide they also developed. Farmers could use their seeds and spray their pesticides. However, an issue arose: the corn could have glyphosate residue. An ice cream company used syrup made from this genetically modified corn for ice cream. After testing, trace amounts of glyphosate residue were found. How much trace? About 1 billionth. However, after a U.S. media report, the public rejected it. The ice cream company had to stop using this corn as a raw material. Neil deGrasse Tyson, however, did the math. When talking about health, there's a measure called the lethal dose for 50%, or in simple terms, how much dose per kilogram of body weight would cause 50% of people to die. Glyphosate's value is 5 grams per kilogram, but sugar can also be dangerous. The lethal dose for sugar is 30 grams per kilogram. The problem is, the sugar content in ice cream is much higher than the residue of glyphosate. According to Neil deGrasse Tyson's calculations, a person weighing 145 pounds, consuming 20 pints, or about 9 liters, of ice cream would die from excessive sugar intake. To die from glyphosate poisoning, you would need to consume 400 million pints of ice cream. So for consumers, the risk ranking, from high to low, should be excessive sugar intake, followed by overeating, and finally, glyphosate poisoning. However, words like genetically modified and pesticide residue just sound scarier, and consumers emotionally can't accept 1 billionth residue. This reminds me of a famous rumor circulated online that vitamin C and seafood should not be consumed together, as the arsenic in seafood would be reduced to arsenic trioxide, or arsenic. Similarly, scientists who are critical have calculated, based on the arsenic content in seafood and the lethal dose for 50% of arsenic trioxide, that even for heavily contaminated sea products, one would have to eat dozens of kilograms in one meal to be poisoned. If it's a regular, properly regulated seafood, you'd need to eat a ton. If consumed that way, the concern wouldn't be arsenic. So, what should we do? Is Neil deGrasse Tyson suggesting that we abandon emotions and make decisions purely based on numbers? Of course not. Neil deGrasse Tyson himself acknowledges that making decisions solely based on numbers and reason may sound good but is challenging to implement in real life. In this book, Neil deGrasse Tyson shares his experience as a juror, where he tried to filter out all emotional factors and focus only on the facts. For this, he even confronted the judge: why describe a piece of evidence in the case as 1,700 milligrams, instead of 1.7 grams? Is this to make it sound more significant? Eventually, he was kicked out of the courtroom. In the book, Neil deGrasse Tyson uses this experience as a joke, knowing that if everyone spoke and acted this way, Earth would be chaotic. Therefore, Neil deGrasse Tyson's suggestion is that we can be rational first, then emotional. You should first clarify the data and then decide which emotion to use. Neil deGrasse Tyson provides his own example. He loves barbecue, but the news often reports that eating barbecue increases the risk of rectal cancer. Of course, Neil deGrasse Tyson is afraid of cancer but doesn't want to give up barbecue. As a scientist, he conducted some research. Neil deGrasse Tyson found that rectal cancer has a baseline probability of 4.3%. In other words, even if a person never eats barbecue, there is a 4.3% chance of developing rectal cancer in their lifetime. Barbecue increases the risk of rectal cancer on top of this baseline probability. By how much? Neil deGrasse Tyson found data indicating a 15% increase. A 15% increase in risk sounds frightening, but you should know that this is a 15% increase on top of 4.3%. When you do the math, the actual risk of developing rectal cancer increases from 4.3% to 4.9%, only raising by 0.6 percentage points. Once you understand this calculation, you can make a more informed choice. Some might say, I want to be healthier, even 0.6 percentage points are a risk. I won't eat barbecue from now on. We can understand that. Others might say, I enjoy barbecue. If you stop me from eating, I'll be depressed, and the harm to my physical and mental health is far greater than that 0.6 percentage points, so I'll keep eating. We can also understand that. Therefore, Neil deGrasse Tyson is not suggesting that we completely abandon our emotions when making decisions. Still, we can use reason to see all the options and their consequences. When we see the facts and analyze the results, if emotion still doesn't align with the data, we can then make a choice based on emotion, but at least you have seen all possibilities. The earlier discussion was about things that extraterrestrials might find puzzling about us humans, things we can reconsider. Now, let's talk about something that extraterrestrials might shake their heads at, something humans should reflect upon. If extraterrestrials were to visit Earth, one of the most challenging aspects for them to accept would likely be our tendency to draw boundaries between people. On today's Earth, these boundaries seem endless, boundaries between nations, between ethnicities, and even within the same nation and ethnicity, distinctions arise based on factors such as hair color, dietary choices, clothing preferences, language spoken, and romantic partners. Neil deGrasse Tyson, being a black man, keenly feels the divisions among Americans based on race. Some of these divisions occur unintentionally. For example, during Neil deGrasse Tyson's school days, his teacher introduced a theorem in topology called the Hairy Ball theorem. The specifics of the theorem are complex and won't be delved into here. What left a lasting impression on Neil deGrasse Tyson was the analogy the teacher used to explain it. The teacher said the result of the theorem is like when you comb your hair every morning, you'll find that, no matter how you comb, there's always a strand of hair that refuses to stay in place. Neil deGrasse Tyson couldn't understand this analogy because, as a black person with natural curls, he had never experienced a single strand of hair misbehaving while combing. This is just a minor detail in life, and there's no harm in not understanding each other between white and black individuals. However, increased lack of understanding can eventually manifest as biases. Neil deGrasse Tyson, a physicist with a bachelor's degree from Harvard and a master's and doctoral degree from Columbia University, likely has an intelligence level higher than that of most Americans. Yet, he has encountered biases from white individuals more than once, asserting that black people have lower intelligence. There's even a notion suggesting that the evolution from apes to humans occurred later for black people, making them more akin to gorillas and, therefore, inferior to other races. Neil deGrasse Tyson went as far as creating a list to counter these claims, pointing out that, if one must make such comparisons, white people are closer to gorillas. Gorillas have dense body hair, which race has the heaviest body hair among humans? White people. Gorillas have large ears, among humans, which race has the largest ears? White people. Gorillas are prone to lice on their heads, but black people are highly resistant to lice, while white people are more susceptible. Neil deGrasse Tyson presented these arguments not to argue that black people are superior to white people in any way but to illustrate that arguments about the superiority or inferiority of races are foolish. Moreover, the concept of black people itself is artificially imposed. Black people are not a single entity but can be divided into many ethnicities. Human ancestors migrated out of Africa, but only a minority left, leaving the majority in Africa. This led to the emergence of many ethnicities on the continent. In fact, the genetic diversity of humans on the African continent is higher than anywhere else in the world. The tallest and shortest average height races in the world, the fastest and slowest runners, are all found in Africa. To lump all these ethnicities together and label them as black people is unscientific. If we step back and assume the perspective of extraterrestrial beings, looking at humans on Earth, we would indeed find certain aspects amusing. Broadly speaking, everyone lives on this vast planet, with a shared ancestry dating back hundreds of thousands of years. We are all Earthlings, not fundamentally different. However, if we delve into meticulous biological research, we can distinguish many different branches. Yet, arbitrarily creating a concept like black people, whether on a large or small scale, is something to be questioned. This is what humans should reflect upon. We artificially define boundaries but treat these divisions as natural chasms. Neil deGrasse Tyson provides an example in the book. The United States classifies hurricanes into 5 categories to help people assess the level of danger. If news reports state that a hurricane has strengthened from Category 3 to Category 4, people should be more vigilant. This is undoubtedly necessary. However, people should also realize that these classifications are human-made, with wind speeds of 129 miles per hour constituting a Category 3 hurricane and 130 miles per hour making it a Category 4 hurricane. The boundary values between these categories are merely convenient divisions, without any inherent magical significance. If someone staunchly holds on to these boundaries and sees a hurricane's wind speed go from 129 to 130, thinking the hurricane has drastically changed, they would undoubtedly be considered foolish. Yet, when humans look at themselves, they rigidly treat these boundaries created for convenience as insurmountable walls. Isn't this also foolish? In addition to racial divisions, Neil deGrasse Tyson lists many other barriers between individuals in the book, divisions based on gender, wealth, physical ability, and even significant gaps between meat-eaters and non-meat eaters. These divisions are regrettable. How to eliminate these artificially created boundaries? This is a vast question, and the book doesn't provide a clear answer. However, there is a story that touched me. The story takes place in the 1970s during the Cold War era, where the rivalry between the US and the Soviet Union was ongoing. In such an environment, the US and the Soviet Union signed an agreement for a space docking exercise between the American Apollo and the Soviet Soyuz spacecraft. Several years later, in July 1975, the two spacecraft indeed docked in space, and American and Soviet astronauts engaged in the first-ever handshake in space. At the moment they opened the hatch, the Americans spoke Russian, and the Soviets spoke English. The cosmos allowed two adversarial nations to speak each other's language. This gives us hope. The previous topics seemed a bit heavy. You might wonder, would our perspective on humanity become more cold and indifferent when viewed from the cosmic standpoint? Would we become more prone to disappointment and pessimism about human existence? Certainly not. Viewing humanity from a cosmic perspective can also be inspiring. For instance, the universe allows you to reevaluate the preciousness of life. Scientists have estimated that approximately 100 billion people have been born on Earth throughout history, a seemingly large number. However, the potential combinations of changes in our DNA far exceed this figure, amounting to 10 to the power of 30. What does this concept entail? Every human who has ever lived on Earth represents merely 1 in a billion, multiplied by 1 in a billion, multiplied by 1 in 1,000 of the potential combinations. The vast majority of possible individuals will never actually exist on Earth. Even until the Earth ceases to exist, this arrangement of combinations will never repeat. Therefore, the way each of us lives our lives is not only luckier than winning a lottery but is also a unique existence in the universe. This is not rhetoric but a mathematical answer. From a cosmic perspective, each person's life is both fortunate and precious. The Earth we inhabit is also a fortunate existence. There's a saying in the aerospace community, if God wanted humans to explore space, he would have given Earth a moon. Why? Because the moon, a bright orb in the night sky for thousands of years, has continuously attracted humans to observe and explore. The moon's distance also makes it just within our reach. If there were no moon and only the small Mars and Venus were visible, it might not stimulate our desire to explore. When we eventually develop spacecraft to leave Earth, setting Mars as the first destination would indeed be too challenging. The moon provided us with the impulse to explore the universe and also offered a learning zone with just the right level of difficulty. Another stroke of luck is that the sun's diameter is 400 times that of the moon, and the distance between the sun and Earth is precisely 400 times the distance between the moon and Earth. Due to this coincidence, the Sun and the Moon appear to be the same size when observed from Earth. Consequently, at specific moments, we can witness the Moon completely blocking the Sun, leading to a total solar eclipse. A solar eclipse observation in 1919 validated a scientific theory known as general relativity. There's no scientific calculation explaining why the Sun, Earth, and Moon are arranged this way, we can only attribute this coincidence to luck. These strokes of luck amplify our desire to look into the universe and provide us with the capability to see more of the cosmos. Now, this knowledge about the universe, in turn, helps us understand ourselves more clearly. There is nothing luckier in the entire universe than this. When seen from the cosmic perspective, we are tiny, yet, from the cosmic standpoint, we are fortunate enough. At this point, I've completed the interpretation of Starry Messenger by Neil deGrasse Tyson for you. Although this space journey is just a hypothetical one with Neil deGrasse Tyson, I believe that after this thought experiment, your perspective on yourself has changed. You might wonder, can we find a way to regularly scrutinize ourselves in this manner? At the end of the audio, I'll share with you the method I've found. In 1977, the United States launched the Voyager 1 spacecraft. It is the farthest flying probe in history. By February 14, 1990, Voyager 1 was already 6 billion kilometers away from Earth, equivalent to the distance from Pluto to Earth. Scientists instructed Voyager 1 to turn around and take a photograph at this moment. You have to look very carefully to see a tiny blue dot on the right side of the photo, that's Earth seen from 6 billion kilometers away. Neil deGrasse Tyson has an idol, an earlier generation astronomer and science communicator named Carl Sagan. Carl Sagan wrote something very moving while looking at this blue dot. I recommend you keep both the picture and these words. On it, everyone you love, everyone you know, everyone you ever heard of, every human being who ever lived out their lives on this little mote of dust. Here is gathered everything joyous and sorrowful, the self-assuredness of thousands of religions, ideologies, and economic theories, every hunter and gatherer, every hero and coward, every creator and destroyer of civilizations, every king and farmer, every young couple in love, every hopeful child, every set of parents, inventors, and explorers, every moral teacher, every corrupt politician, every superstar, every supreme leader, every saint and sinner in human history, they all resided on this suspended speck in the sunlight. The Earth is currently the only inhabited planet, and there is no other place, at least not in the near future, for human migration. It can only be visited, not settled. Whether you like it or not, for now, Earth is our only foothold. For some, astronomy is said to inspire humility and shape character. For me, this image of our tiny world taken from afar is a powerful demonstration of human arrogance and folly. To me, it emphasizes the need to treat every person around us with kindness and empathy while also protecting and cherishing this faint blue dot, our currently known and only home. Congratulations, you've completed another book. Thank you for your support and attention. Please subscribe to the Tim Booker channel, like, and share this valuable knowledge with your friends. Let's combine wisdom and practice, achieve our financial goals, and create a better future together. Thank you, and goodbye.